I normally don't watch a lot of movies compared to my friends, and I don't want to fall behind, so I've gathered a lot of disturbing, horrific, and even banned films. These are some of the internet's most disturbing movies. This movie is honestly strangely unique. We need to talk about Kevin. It's a psychological drama, and it starts with a widow who wakes up to see that her house and car are covered in red paint, despite her living totally alone. The movie jumps between the past and the present, with glimpses revealing more of what's going on, where in one of the scenes, Eva is seen going to prison to visit someone. At this point I thought about vehicle manslaughter. Eva previously had 2 children and was a successful writer. Her first child, and also the main antagonist, Kevin, for some reason never liked his mom very much, mostly preferring his dad, Franklin. Nowadays, everyone looks at Eva like she did something incredibly wrong. For more than Eva tries to clean up the house, it never changed how people treated her and how miserable she looked. What I hated about this movie was the decision making. Like, we never get to see Eva disciplining Kevin, despite Kevin challenging her several times, and when we do, she breaks his arm. The story reaches its climax when Eva had another child, Celia, who was the opposite of Kevin. And from that moment on, we finally get some closure. One night, Kevin decides to use his bow and arrows that he received as a Christmas gift and bicycle locks to do a school But before that, Kevin decides to take away everything that Eva had. This obviously gets Kevin arrested, but not before he took the lives of various students. In prison, Kevin admits that he once knew why he did it, but now he wasn't sure. Eva gave birth to a psychopath. Eva, even after losing everything, career, family, and reputation, keeps her hopes that her son eventually realizes, changes, and comes back home after his sentence. The World War II was one of the most tragic wars in history, with an estimated 70 to 85 million deaths. Despite the terrifying number, one thing that modern citizens cannot fully understand is the horrors that the losing side of the battle had to face. And there's no better film to talk about it than Come and See, a film so shocking that ambulances had to be called in cinemas. In it, we follow Florian, a 16-year-old Belarus teenager who, after finding a buried weapon, decides to leave his family behind to fight against the Germans. Florian had a horrible time right from the start. He notices that the military didn't have many resources, he is forced to switch boots with one of the soldiers, and on his first chance to fight, he's put aside for being a recruit. But things were only getting started. His camp gets bombed, leaving only Florian and Glasha alive. Both looking for refuge, come back to Florian's home, only to notice that his neighbors and family were executed. One of his neighbors was burned alive, his group died, and the other village of locals that gave him shelter gets burned down, including the mass of all the civilians. There's even a scene where one of the women got kidnapped and came back with her legs totally covered in blood, implying that she got assaulted. Florian slowly gets more and more traumatized and angry as his soul and innocence get sucked away by the horrors of war. The ending doesn't comfort the viewer in any way, since there's nothing to be comfortable with. It ends vaguely, leaving the viewer to interpret whether Florian made it out alive, or if he was just another missing name on the battlefield. Now for the found footage fans. The Poughkeepsie Tapes starts strong, with a small text from the Bible, before instantly showing a car pulling a body from a grave. This film happens in the city of Poughkeepsie, New York, which is terrorized by several murders committed by the same perpetrator. The movie jumps between tapes and the FBI recounting the story of how that killer made everyone look nothing more than a pawn. The killer had recorded over 200 hours of footage, with most of these being about Cheryl Dempsey, his favorite victim. Cheryl is seen being gets brainwashed, and is forced to play a character in the killer's delusion, always calling him master. The killer liked the attention so much that he would give clues to police to find another body, would torment Cheryl's mother in person, and would incriminate a police officer who was later wrongfully executed. The quote-unquote master would eventually be caught, or so that's what they thought, since the FBI tracked down his house and raided it, only to discover that it was all part of his plan. In the house, the FBI found the 200 hours of tapes, including Cheryl, who was now in critical condition. Despite being taken to the hospital, Cheryl, with all the brainwashing, was now simply a shadow of her former self. When no one was watching, she would herself because now it was all she knew, and she believed that the killer actually loved her and would be back together. Weeks later, Cheryl took her own life. It's 1997. We follow a young student named Carrie, whose childhood is in complete shambles. Her parents constantly fought until one day they ended up divorcing. Now fatherless, Carrie has trouble sleeping and feeling safe as she can hear and see how that divorce affected her mother. But things would only get worse. This is where the film leaves you with a growing pit in the stomach. Carrie gets used by one of her father's friends for money, and on one night, Carrie's mom asks her to do horrible things. The cycle of sexual abuse continues again and again, even coming from people who were supposed to protect her. Carrie doesn't feel safe anymore, and that begins to manifest in her friendships. She begins to slowly get more and more isolated, and is seen harming herself by one of the professors, who thankfully helps her out. That makes her confess to CPS, and finally she's taken away from her home, and her mom's boyfriend is finally arrested and is going to be charged with of a minor. Carrie is obviously happy. The system failed her. The frustration and hopelessness makes Carrie fall into the only thing she was taught. The movie ends with Carrie getting enough money to move to another foster house, where she finally begins to heal. If this story wasn't horrible enough, this was all based on a true story. The Killing of America is a documentary that speaks about the most iconic symbol of America and its alleged downfall: guns. How they could be used for good or bad, and how worrisome it was that guns were easily accessible. It mainly focuses on the point that, as America became the most developed country, also turned into one of the most violent countries in the world, where guns controlled the future of America, where violence meets those who want to end it, and how violence always makes Americans run back to buy even more guns. This documentary is disturbing for its real and exclusive footage of incidents, including interviews with killers, mainly focusing on when will the cycle of violence end, and if the accessibility really made things better or worse. Megan is Missing is one of the most disturbing found footage horror movies due to how realistic and credible it feels, but I hate how effective it is at transmitting a message. It begins by pulling off your blanket, saying that what you are about to say is based on true events. We follow a compilation of videos and phone calls from 2007 of a 14-year-old student called Megan who disappeared on the 14th of January. We see Megan through her social and school life, until she meets a guy named Josh. After a few calls between them, they both agreed to meet each other behind a diner, where there, Megan gets kidnapped and is never heard from again. This is where her best friend takes over the main character role. Amy, worried about her missing best friend, would visit places where both would usually hang out in hopes of finding something. Amy tells to the police that Josh was the culprit, as he was the last person to meet Megan, which eventually makes Amy disappear as well on the 4th of February, leaving police and families with one simple question: where were they? After 1 month of silence, this missing case would finally have a breakthrough. This is where the film doesn't pull any punches. 2 photos of Megan were seen on a website, where the owner would later report to the FBI. Amy's camera would also be found where it contained footage of her being starved, and it would confirm that Megan was dead. The film ends with 22 unedited minutes of Amy using her little energy to beg for her life as she slowly suffocates and is buried alive. This film was so shocking and disturbing that it was banned from New Zealand, and this tragically could be used as a PSA. Be careful online. A controversial film that allegedly was banned in 46 countries. Faces of Death is a mockumentary which begins with a surgeon named Frank who is interested in the various faces of death because of a recurring dream. With that, Frank traveled around the world to record and show various ways of dying, most of them being fake. This documentary was created with the intention of showing that death may be just around the corner, thus making viewers reflect on death, and the movie would end questioning if death was really the end. All of this while showing graphic footage. Even though this documentary was made to make people reflect on death, its purpose was also the reason for the hatred and censorship. Even though many scenes were faked, the documentary was banned from showing in cinemas in the UK, kinda ironic, I know, was banned from New Zealand, was censored in Germany and Australia, and was part of 2 legal cases, being this only one of several disturbing banned movies. Before you go, please let me know what you guys thought about this video, as I'm thinking of turning this into a mini-series. And this was the first volume of the internet's most disturbing movies. Thanks to all our Patreon support upon, it truly means a lot. And you viewer, till next time, take care my friend.